Good morning, and thank you all so much for coming. Good people from this wonderful organization asked me to give a parent's perspective on the summer search experience. Actually, they first asked me to do this last year at a summer search event for other parents and students. There, I knew the audience were just like me, most heavily invested in creating a better future for our children with little room for much else. In preparation for this talk, I spent a lot of time worrying about how different this audience would be. Finally, I realized that although we may have different financial means with which to provide for our children, we can't be that different in terms of the emotional investment that we have in our children. I'm up here before you today because I know that where I would normally run from a request to speak before a large audience, this is something I can't run from because I know the guilt would quickly outweigh the fear. The organization has simply done too much for me and my family. But I sure didn't start off as the most cooperative parent. 4 years ago, when my daughter first came to me with news of summer search and free trips, I responded by showing her a half dozen pieces of junk mail with similar offers for me. From the $30,000 checks from big finance companies, being the top 10 finalist in the latest sweepstakes. At the time, I was really struggling to pay her high school tuition and just wasn't in the frame of mind to be receptive to offers of free trips, now coming from my own daughter. My early relationship with this organization was quite rocky and constantly teetered on the brink of extinction. First, it was, your daughter has been accepted to be interviewed, but we'll need a copy of your tax returns. My tax returns, why? Was I running for president? I was miffed by this request, but I gave in because I could tell you truthfully that I wanted this to be real because my daughter really wanted this. Her interview came and went, and Regina got in. I took the news with guarded optimism, but that rapidly faded as each new step in the program brought on a fresh wave of anxiety. There were regular phone calls to my daughter at my home that I wasn't allowed in the room for. At the end of almost every call, my daughter would be crying. She would not tell me why. And my easy solution to bring an end to the pain was to move this organization up to the top of my cut list. Had she been seized by a cult or something? To be this exposed as a family, I felt threatened by what my daughter was saying to these faceless people on the other end of the phone line. Then there was the famous brochure announcing where the first free trip was, to the North Cascades Wilderness for 21 days with no bathing facilities, but teenage boys would be included. My daughter was at an all-girls school, not exclusively to avoid just such situations, but that certainly was one of the fringe benefits. As trip day came, I saw that they actually weren't kidding. There were big, athletic, well-groomed teenage boys in the group. My mind rapidly toggled back and forth between grabbing my daughter by the arm and marching straight back to the car and trying to quell the anxiety enough to give a stern glance to these boys before wishing Regina well and sending her on her way. I didn't know how, but I ultimately settled on the latter choice. Today, with the benefit of hindsight, I can say this was one of the most ingenious choices I've made for my daughter's growth as a person and for my growth as a father. One change upon Regina's return was her almost complete abandonment, that all too familiar teenage isolation from the parents via headphones, closed bedroom doors, and the always higher priority visits with friends. She still liked her music, her privacy, and her friends, but she not only began letting us into her world, but welcoming us, seeking us out to tell us what her day was like, to ask advice, to assure us as we stressed out over the many new plans she was making for herself. We became partners. Rather than engaging in isolation for the sake of isolation, a closed bedroom door usually meant that something productive was going on, like scouring books for scholarships in colleges she wanted to attend, or talking to her summer search mentor. Her enthusiasm for going to college became very high, and she worked with her A-team-like counselors at both summer search and her school to open up 5 opportunities for herself to universities of her own choosing, and one of her mom and dad's own choosing. Well, she finally prevailed and settled on Seattle University with a generous scholarship and financial aid package. Summer Search has made a big difference in some of the thornier issues that we have grown through over the past 4 years. Regina's first year in private school was a tough adjustment in ways that I could never have anticipated. She was shy, introverted, and we were overprotective of her. Often, she would try to communicate her frustration about going to school with the affluent. I was dismissive, with no real frame of reference for my own personal life to compare. My personal contact with the wealthy was very rare. Consequently, any advice I ultimately gave at this time was based on stereotypes and hearsay. I would push my daughter to fit in, however she could manage, while I myself would meticulously avoid any situations where contact with the affluent parents of the school was necessary. So it went until Regina returned from a trek in the North Cascades. During that journey, wealthy, middle class, and poor teens all worked through the many physical and mental challenges they endured together. Each brought his or her own life experience to bear to make the whole journey successful. When Regina went back to school that fall, I never heard anything about class struggles again, and I witnessed her circle of friends broaden across class and culture barriers that she and I had carried in the years before. Soon, I felt compelled to take that uncomfortable step forward to bridge my own class prejudices and barriers. Before Summer Search, this was something I didn't even know about myself. Maybe in the back of my mind, I had hidden stereotypes about people with means, perceptions I had from my own limited knowledge of people different from me. Regina's experience forced me to face my own biases. Are the affluent really like the stereotypical affluent on TV? Do they ridicule you for picking up the wrong fork at dinner, or snicker at your wine selection, or turn their noses if you just have a beer instead? Thankfully, not in my experience. I just had to sit down with some of the parents once at a school gathering to see how misguided and ridiculous my perceptions were. In doing so, I have realized that as a parent, I have a lot in common with you. And as a concerned citizen in your community, I join you in the work required to support our future leaders, including Regina. We all can learn from one another, can inspire one another, and lend a hand to each other in times of need. It is my hope that in hearing my words this morning, you walk away with an understanding that Summer Search actually makes a difference exactly where it is most critical in each person's life. I certainly wish I had Summer Search when I was growing up, because I know that early and constructive interaction with people from all walks of life has left Regina much better prepared to assume a leadership role in whatever pursuit she may choose. Fortunately, my whole family has benefited tremendously from Summer Search today. I'm just one parent, and Regina is just one student, and yet this program has profoundly changed us. Imagine the ripple effect each of us has, and the effect that we can have on the people in our lives. We are in this together, not separate as I used to think, but drawn together by our common belief in each other. Regina has become a leader at her school, crossing cultural and social barriers all the time for the greater good of helping others. And now, her life is in her own capable hands. Just last week, our youngest daughter, Makaria, was also accepted into Summer Search. I look forward to seeing how her journey with this program changes her and the rest of us. To end this program this morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you a young woman who I admire and respect and am deeply proud of, Regina Dove.
I am what Summer Search is. I am here today because Summer Search has taught me the essential principle of giving back. I am proud to say that I'm doing just that. I am the founding board chair of the Seattle Alumni Board, and at our alumni party in January, 100% of the alumni there made a donation to Summer Search, because they understand and believe in the power of Summer Search. We are where change begins. I hope each of you here this morning will join us in creating change in our community by donating generously to our program. Thank you all so much for being here and for ensuring that more Summer Search students have the opportunity to transform themselves and their families. Thank you, and have a great day.